Hi everyone watching this video. I'm Kamalesh Mohan, crew commander of Lunastruck 98 mission and a master's candidate from ISU. I'm excited to present our team's findings on this Analog Astronaut Conference 2025 and is a major event 100 analog mission anniversary. I'm very happy for AATC, Agatha and its crew. And my project is about a human-centered study on retrospective time perception in simulated space isolation. And this is my crew Lunastruck 98. From the left, first person is Victoria. She is a medical officer. And next, Alija. She is a communication officer. And then Blodje. He is a data engineer. And myself, Kamalesh Mohan, crew commander of Lunastruck 98. And then Marceli. He is a engineer of a Lunastruck 98 mission. And this photo is from Agatha commander. I was receiving my completion certificate. That was a happy moment for me. And moving on to the topic, the Chronos challenge time perception in isolation. The core problem is the Chronos challenge in isolation. The internal biological clock, the circadian rhythm, is deprived of natural light and external cues. This leads to temporal disorientation. Our goal is to measure the distortion during a 7-day lunar habitat analog at AATC, specifically focusing on how crew members retrospectively estimate the duration of their days. And here is the context and research objective of the mission. And let's get into the methodology. The 7-day blackout protocol. Our experimental design involved a 5% crew under resource-limited conditions, centered around a critical intervention, a 3-day blackout period from a day to 4. This protocol removed all extended temporal cues. The key data we collected daily was estimation error. We can see the black column over here, the effect of blackout on retrospective time estimation, and the error, which is difference between the actual time elapsed and the crew member's subjective guess of the duration. And our hypothesis anticipating temporal collapse, we tested like a 5 key hypothesis. First, we predicted that the blackout would cause a disorientation, and second, we expected that the high workload task like 3D printing and geopolymer mixing would lead to time compression, where time feels short. Crucially, we also hypothesized that the crew members demonstrate temporal adaptation by the end of our mission. In this result one, you can see the blackout temporal accelerator. By key findings where let's dive into the data. This figure shows a mean estimation error which a negative value which I have seen previously. The crew consistently felt that the time was shorter, that it was actually was a phenomenon known as time compression. The blackout day shows a significantly more negative error compared to light days. This directly confirms H1. The hypothesis 1, which we say as a sensory deprivation, is a powerful time accelerator causing a profound sense of compression. The effect is immediate and sustained across the 3 blackout days. And we have shared a few images during a work section in our habitat. And in this finding 2, the role linked compression. We look at the impact of the crew role. We divided the crew into 2 groups, the technical role, engineer and data engineer, and then which had a highly complex immersive task like calibrating a 3D printer versus the legendary logistical roles. And the CDR, COM and MED, the results were striking. The technical roles experienced 3 times the compression effect of logistics counterparts. This confirms H2, the type of intensity of cognitive workload is a major driver of our temporal distortion. And if you have seen, this is a picture which we took during solving a mathematical solution for the for making a regolith using geopolymer. And the workload accelerator. This mechanism is an attention of trade-off. As the data engineer noted, when I forced on printer calibration, the time collapsed. Hours felt like minutes. When a crew member's entire cognitive capacity is funneled into a complex task, the brain stops dedicating the resources to internal timekeeping. In retrospect, because the crew was so immersed, there were few events to reconstruct the day, leading to a collapsed shorter memory of time. In this finding 3, the trajectory mission H3 and H4. This line plot reveals the full 7-day trajectory of time distortion. The error is not static, it follows a clear U-shaped curve of shock and recovery. The crew starts near baseline immediately, dives into peak compression during the blackout, and then begins a gradual climb back towards baseline after the blackout is lifted. Let's zoom on to the dip. The peak compression occurred on day 4, the final day of the blackout. This represents the point of maximum temporal disorientation and the greatest divergence between the objective reality and subjective experience. This point of maximal strain is critical. It's where the risk of scheduling errors of cumulative fatigue is highest. And from this day 5 to 7, finally we'll look at the recovery phase because it starts on the day 5. When light was restored, the estimation error rapidly returns to baseline. This supports H4. The human crew demonstrated temporal resilience. Their internal rhythm began to recalibrate and regenerate a new subjective schedule. Owen's external cues returned, showing an inherent capacity for adaptation crucial for long duration missions. The crew's daily reports confirm our quantitative findings. The qualitative themes are dominated by feelings of temporal disorientation. Our communication officer noted it felt like the night never ended. The clock in my head stopped working. This isolation driven loss, a reliable time cue, is a foundation of the distortion we measured. And in this emotional curve, you can see interestingly, the crew's emotional self-ratings mirrored the time perception data. Initial, moral, and focus dipped sharply during the blackout days, coinciding with the peak of time compression, and then recovered on days 5 to 7. So, the temporal awareness is inextricably linked to overall psychological well-being and emotional regulation. The return to the baseline on day 5 and beyond wasn't just passive, it evolved active consciousness recalibration. The commander stated, even without clocks, my body began guessing the schedule again. This suggests the brain has an emergency override, building new predictive rhythms using internal factors like meal times and fixed daily protocols, which we can leverage. And this living in the distortion, this brings us to core findings of temporal distortion. Is a dual process, refers to the infographics which we are seeing. It's not just one factor, it is a product of two forces: sensory deprivation, the blackout, which causes a disorientation, and cognitive load, high immersion task, which cause compression. Both must be managed to maintain the crew performances. And so what is the operational impact? The time errors are not benign. They directly comprises first the scheduling compliance leading to the mission protocols and fatigue, and then the resource management, poor time estimation impacts the cycle planning for water, air, and power. And in emergency response, impaired temporal awareness comprises of rapid high stakes decision making. Okay, based on the findings of a high cognitive and lead to the compression, our first recommendation is dynamic task scheduling. Is a mission control must balance high immersion tasks like 3D printing, low load logistic activities. This ensures cognitive resources are freed up periodically for temporal self monitoring, preventing peak compressions. And this mitigation, like a second, we must actively reinforce time perception. This means using adaptive lighting protocols that are intentionally timed to reset and reinforce the circadian rhythm, particularly after the periods so of our isolation. We also recommend temporal self calibration by the training to teach crews techniques like mindfulness checks and using internal metronomes to actively maintain the sense of duration. So, in conclusion, We found that severe temporal distortion is an inevitable byproduct of our isolation and workload. However, the most critical takeaway is the crew's demonstrated temporal resilience, their ability to self-calibrate and regenerate internal rhythms is a vital, inherent, and the capacity that we must rely on and support for the success of autonomous long-duration mission to Mars and the Moon. And in the future research, we need to move beyond subjective reports. Our next step involve longer duration studies to track chronic distortion and integrating physiological data like EEG and cortisol to find objective like biomarkers for time distortion and allowing us to predict the mitigate risk in a real time. And also by using quantum computing, we can bring automated AI, a framework which helps to monitor all the biomarkers and everything, and to get to know the level of temporal distortion physically throughout by monitoring it. And thank you for the AATC organizing committee, the Lunastruck 98 crew, and the ISU program for their support. The Kronos challenge is real, but so is human adaptability. I now welcome your questions, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and this is my email ID, which you can see. So stay tuned for the updates, and thank you so much for staying with me so long. Thank you.